Hey everybody, what is going on? Welcome to another edition of Off the Top Rope here off the Mike Sports Network. So on Collision 100, I didn't watch this show in full, but I did hear some murmurings after the taping because it was not too. It was like probably about 40 miles away from where I reside in here in Southern California, and in Ontario, California. And I had heard from some friends who were in attendance, and I had heard from a lot of people around that the FTR Outrunners tag team match that was really built up really well, and this has been one of the few stories on the lower remnants of the AEW sphere and the card was really well done. So FTR beats the Outrunners. But Outrunners really got elevated in this, and I don't know what the fuck they've been doing with that. Outrunners are very entertaining, and they had a good thing going, but then it was seemingly dropped because then FTR went into their whole thing with Cope, and then they turned on Cope, and then, for whatever reason, big picture, look, FTR, I've said this before, is one of the best tag teams, not just in AEW, but in professional wrestling. I don't like how they flag bear and they do like the rowdy speeches and the pom-pom waving for AEW. I mean, okay, it's the company they work for, but they lay it on pretty thick, especially Dax. And so the heel turn that they had at Dynasty a few months ago, I think has largely been wasted. But this was about the best thing that you could do. It elevated another tag team. But to me, there's a couple things here. So number one, Tony Khan has absolutely botched this FTR run. And I think some of the things, I don't know what really, maybe it's just creative control across this company and people wanting to finish stories. And I respect Christian Cage for wanting to finish up his patriarchy storyline before just, dissolving and going to Cope. And I think that'll probably get paid off in Toronto at All Out, which I think is going to be somewhere in September, I believe. But they've completely botched this FTR heel run. Like after the first week, this has been a disaster. They teamed up with Stokely. They didn't need Stokely. I love Stokely Hathaway. He didn't need to be there. They're feuding with luchadors. They beat the crap out of Daniel Garcia and 2.0, which was fine. And it was a really well executed thing. But then, you get, they were feuding with luchadors. Nigel McGuinness comes off commentary for whatever reason. And then we can finally get to this point on Collision 100 where FTR beats the Outrunners in a really outstanding, well-told story of a tag team match. The Outrunners absolutely, even though they lost, are winners no matter what in this, because finally the momentum that they had last year was finally capitalized on. But here's my problem here. And why I say that the FTR, the big piece of this is the FTR side of it. But we can also extend this to the Outrunners. How in the hell could you honestly tell me that this company gives a shit about tag team wrestling and not have FTR in the tag team title match next Saturday? Like they made it official. There's a 3-way tag team match. It's the Patriarchy. It's Nick Wayne and Christian Cage, who've never really teamed together. You've got Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin, who were thrown together as a team as the Hurt Syndicate, who have kind of just ruined this tag team division, if you want to call it that. And I don't have anything against Lashley or Shelton. They just shouldn't be in the tag team division. That's just bad booking. And then you've got Jet Speed, Kevin Knight, and Speedball Mike Bailey, who have literally spent this entire build to this tag team title match getting their asses kicked. So it's now a 3-way tag team match at All in Texas. Meanwhile, FTR turns on a Hall of Famer in Cope. There's no payoff to that. As far as I can recognize, Adam Copeland is not going to be a part of this show unless it's a random run-in or somehow they find a way to get him into this show going into next week. I don't see him doing that. So that's a waste. So they haven't paid off that element of the storyline. So they've totally botched that. But how FTR does not have a spot on this card is beyond me. And their booking since this heel turn has been an atrocity. It really has been an atrocity because you're feuding with a non-wrestler in Daniel Garcia. That I love Nigel McGuinness. Nigel McGuinness had no relevancy whatsoever. They tried to make it a story, but it's like FTR facing a non-wrestler who's predominantly a commentator. That makes no sense. Then they're feuding with luchadors. Dax gets pinned in a 14-man tag out of fucking nowhere by a 60-year-old Atlantis. Really? I mean, And then, the Outrunners, they're one of the most over tag teams in this division that's been kind of slowly dying. They can't win that gauntlet match last year before, Grand Slam at Arthur Ashe, and they've had no momentum whatsoever. They've put on luchador masks. They still are entertaining as fuck. And I got into it with them on Twitter because I didn't really understand their gimmick, but then I saw how popular they were, and then I watched more of their stuff, and I was like, man, these guys are really entertaining. And then they go out here and have this unbelievable tag team match. And, what does it mean? You're a week away from your biggest show of the year, and your tag team title match is 3 teams that have basically just been thrown together. Is tag team wrestling that fucking dead in AEW? This was one of the staples and the hallmarks of this company. The Young Bucks are not even bothered to be a part of this division, even though they were the champions last year around this time. They're facing Ospreay and Swerve in a match that really is a loser loses something. It's not even about who wins. And that's more interesting than this tag team title match. But then the best tag team that you have in FTR, who hasn't sniffed the tag team title picture in a while. And now here we are with this critically acclaimed match. And as far as, unless something happens on Wednesday or Thursday when they do Dynamite and Collision, this is going to be a 3-way tag, and both these teams are shit out of luck. I mean, does Jet Speed win the titles, or does, Christian and Nick Wayne win the titles? And then ultimately it's just a quick build to, hand it off to FTR. So that way we can get to FTR versus Cope and Christian at some point. Is that the way we get there? Even then, that doesn't really make a whole hell of a lot of sense. Like, it's the Hurt Syndicate, even though I like both guys, they're both spectacular wrestlers, but they're so physically imposing over the rest of this division, and they're miscast as heels right now. And I understand the MJF component of this. These should be baby faces. FTR should potentially be in this match. FTR should win the tag team titles. And then that leads to Cope and Christian. But for whatever reason, since this heel turn, FTR has been so far away from the tag team title picture that it just doesn't make any sense to me. They have completely botched this heel turn. And this looked really promising early on. And what have they done with it really after the first week, after they made the turn? And then obviously 2.0 gets involved with Daddy Magic, and, Angelo Parker comes back from paternity leave, and he hasn't been seen on television. By the way, hopefully get Ruby Soho. I heard they had a kid, and, wonderful for Ruby. I hope Ruby Soho comes back soon. She's great. But since that point, Nigel McGuinness gets involved? Like, what does Nigel McGuinness have to do with any of this? And now they're feuding with the Outrunners, and it's great because they had a story that they were telling, and they were, teamed up together, the FT Outrunners, and you get this great tag team match, one of the better ones that they've had in a while in this tag team division, that actually had a story to it. And neither one of these tag teams are going to be in your tag team title match at the biggest show of the year. Where the fuck's Cope? Seriously, like, what a botch job. And this will probably get paid off, and probably they move this back. So they're going to do, All Out in Toronto. They're not doing it in Chicago this year, but, it's just, man, listen, I've been critical of FTR with the way that they're pom-pom wavers, and they kind of, really somewhat kiss Tony Khan's ass, but Tony Khan's really fucked them here. He really has, because I don't know how you can justify having a tag team title match with 3 teams that haven't really done much of teaming together. And, like I said, really, Hurt Syndicate was just thrown together. And, Shelton and Shelton's been a tag team wrestler. Bobby Lashley should be fighting for, singles gold, maybe the world championship or something like that. But they're not doing that. And yet, here we are. It's just amazing that FTR is nowhere near this picture. It's really a mistake, really a big misfire. So anyway, thanks so much for watching, everybody here. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.